Okay, welcome everybody to the mock stress event webinar. Pleased that you could attend. We've got some interesting information for you, hopefully, when we go through the slides. How it's going to work for the webinar, we've got various different items on the agenda. We've got a slide from our colleagues over at LCCC regarding their data quality and process improvements. And then we've got a series of slides about the background to how we've sort of arrived at this mock stress event reporting functionality. And then we've got queries and questions that CPs have kindly provided to us over the course of the last few weeks. Some questions and feedback from you guys, so you can see where we want to take this next and have feed into that. And then some appendix slides regarding the actual output themselves, what all the terms mean and how the calculations are set up. I'll just go through the presenters for today's session. My name is Ben Lathbury. I'm the Senior Business Analyst here at EMRS Settlement, and with myself and Danielle Petit, who's the Business Analyst at EMR Settlement. We've been working on the EMR settlement side in regards to creating this reporting in conjunction with not only, but in the main, Beer Verk, who's the lead scheme operations manager at LCCC ESC, and he'll be going through the slides from them shortly. So yeah, so that's the contents for today and a brief overview of the actual presenters. If we can go on to the next slide, Hannah. Just a few housekeeping things before we kick off. Your microphones will be muted, as are and your cameras are off. We are recording this session and it will be uploaded to the EMRS website afterwards with the slides and the updated frequently asked questions that we've been collating as we've been going through this process. And you'll see that there's also a link to Slido. So as we're going through this, if you've got any questions that you're wanting to raise or any points, obviously detailed investigations around each individual capacity provider's output might be a bit out of the scope for this session, but if you've got any questions regarding the information or the content from this webinar, please feel free to use that Slido function and provide us with questions as we go along. So that's the housekeeping and the contents. If we can move on to the data quality and process improvements. And Beer, are you okay to just talk us through the sort of backdrop from a LCCC point of view as to how this reporting fits into the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Good morning, everyone. So if you go to next, this slide. So this slide, I mean, it provides a good. It provides a good summary of the data quality and process improvement work that somebody has carried out. I think it's quite a good introductory slide and provide some context to show where we started on this journey and where we've got to. So just going through from the start, we started off implementing the submission of aggregation rules and mandating that submission. We've seen a year-on-year improvement on this setup because of this initiative. And so, I mean, it just provides some figures on previous years. At this point last year, we're going in to the outcome delivery year. We had about 65% setup rate, and now coming into the 23-24 delivery year, we're already up to 85%. And through this, it means that there's been less data issues linked to aggregation rules in the delivery year. Next, we mandated the registration with EMRS and also with the setup of MPAN meter data flow. Again, through this work, in the delivery year, through us sending out these alerts to capacity providers if their CMUs haven't got an MPAN flow set up, we've seen less data issues linked to MPAN flows. There's still some work to be done on self-submission and flows, and that's going to be forming the next part of our work going into the next delivery year. Having more accurate data setup and improved data quality has allowed us to automate more scheme processes. So from the start of this delivery year, we automated the SPD and the extended performance pass report. So we were able to automate the calculations apart from portfolio submissions, and there have been considerable benefits for customers, providers, and we've seen it operationally for EMRS, ESC, and delivery body ESO. And even comparing to last year when we had a partial automation, this year we've seen in the last 4 weeks in April leading up to the first deadline, there was a reduced peak of activity due to this automated reporting. And this leads us on to this latest process improvement and the reason for this webinar. And then it's been our work to replicate the calculations for a mock stress event. And this has been built on the work we've done in improving data quality and the work we've done to automate the SPD and the extended fast reporting. And it's quite, and I think we've got to a good place. And there's more work to be done, but this is this should add further benefit to scheme participants. Pass you on now to Ben, who will go into further detail on this process improvement.
Thanks, Pete. Always useful to have the background to the overarching piece. So if I go on to the background of how we've got there. So the last mock stress event was conducted back in 2018. And the intention of that was to allow end-to-end testing of the processes involved to make sure that everything was working as should be, and the interfaces between CPs and industry bodies was as smooth as possible. There was a huge lessons learned exercise off the back of that, and what became glaringly obvious was the importance that data quality made in settling a stress event. So with all the calculations that sit behind the stress event and then producing the subsequent penalties off the back of that, it was glaringly obvious that if we had some data inconsistencies, it had a huge knock-on for everybody who was involved. As a result of that, and the fact that there was various different versions of the truth out there, the main initiative that ourselves, LCCC and GRID took on at the time was to create a stress event guide from all the delivery partners, so there was one version of the truth. Now, G18, Guidance 18, the stress event guide essentially provides all the information for capacity providers, from breakdowns of the calculations through to what needs to be conducted if we were to ever have a system stress event, and all the steps that take place over the period of time in question. It breaks it down in terms of timelines and provides all the supporting information that you need to provide and when during that time. So all the stress event guidance is in that G18, and that's the one version of the truth that we've got out there. We took those lessons learned as well around the data quality, and we've been running with those over the last year to enhance our own performances, so our own processes and performance around those. So we've had a whole operational work stream looking at all the interfaces that we have between ourselves, GRID, LCCC and yourselves, to look to make sure that are they fit for purpose, are they working as effectively as possible. And because we don't have these, never had a stress event, we just want to make sure that if we were to ever have one, that they were tested thoroughly and will work if we ever did have one. So we've been going through all the interfaces, all the flows, testing those. So we've been through the SO1, the 3, the 4, the 9, all these files that we receive, just to make sure that we can receive them, they get loaded and everything works as per the regs. And that's what we've been concentrating on over the last year. And also the data quality piece, we've been various different initiatives that we've been working with LCCC to make sure that all manual workarounds are removed, and we've got streamlined processes to make sure that when data is received, there's no intervention, everything is loaded as per the rules and the regs, and the calculations work as they should be. But then it has opened up the fact that for this to work correctly, there is a huge importance on data quality, and hence why we've come to this reporting that we've got now, a calculation-based approach that puts the onus and insight back onto industry to say, right, this is your position, these are where you have an issue. If we could rectify those, it would mean if we were to have a system stress event, it would work as intended. Okay. So what is this calculation-based focus? So we've been working with our developers to come up with a new functionality that allows us to run a system stress event without all the further knock-ons at any point in time. So we now have set up within our core settlement system the functionality that for any settlement period we can run a mock stress event at that point in time that will calculate as if we were to have a system stress event, what would be your output and what would be your how are you performing against your obligation, that we can then share with you to provide that insight to say how would you be getting on, and have you got any blockers that need to be rectified. So how we've done this, so we've got for a certain period we're going to run it, and then we're going to send email notifications, as we have done with this testing one over the last few weeks, that mirror what you would get in the event of a real system stress event, and it would tell you, are you over or under delivering against your obligation? But then it also goes that step further to say, if your data is not up and as expected, what are some generic categories as to how what is the issue that was preventing you from settling during a certain stress event. We're sending this out so you can validate the data to ensure it's accurate, and the aim is, you've got that knowledge and awareness that if we were to have a system stress event, you know what to do in the event, and you know how the information looks, and you can use that information and challenge to say, yeah, that's not right, or rectify whatever the data blocker is. One thing to know, as the system, this reporting is all around data quality and making sure that your data submission, your pathways are all as should be. We've not included the volume reallocation bit, and I know Danielle's got a question about that when we go to the question sessions later on in this webinar. So the reporting that we sent out to you previously was run for the settlement date of the 28th of November 2022 for settlement period 37, and that period was we chose that one. It wasn't arbitrary, it was just that was when we had the latest capacity market warning notice, so that we thought that made sense to provide you with that information. If we were to have the system stress event, how would you guys have performed at that period? So there is a few things to note with this move to the calculation based approach. To get the calculations to work, because obviously we're not in an actual system stress event, there is several things that we have had to default. The first one of those is relevant interruption. We've also had to default interconnector interruption and also declared availability. This is in line with the previous mock stress event approach in 2018, just due to its very nature that it is a mock stress event, that information would not be readily available. And because we're wanting to give you guys the insight into how your data looks, we wanted to carry on with the fact that it's a sort of standpoint, a line in the sand, that because it is that mock stress event, these are always going to be defaulted to 0 and would only become in line if we were to have that real stress event. So that's what we've defaulted to get the calculations to run, and that will always be the case. There are some exception reasons. And these are again in line with the mock stress event that we performed previously back in 2018. If I just go through those quickly, these are all listed on the EMRS website, but these are some of the issues, how we've categorized them. So not capacity committed, this is where a CMU has not got a capacity obligated for that settlement date. aggregation rules transfer data issue, and there's a very small number of these, but this is where we've got some kind of data transfer issue between ourselves and National Grid, where we've got to sort out some standing data to get that aggregation rule to process, to get that data in, so that then we can settle during a system stress event. The missing aggregation rules or missing metered data is exactly what it says. For that settlement period, if you fall into that category, we didn't have the aggregation rules set up, or there wasn't any metered data provided, so we couldn't perform the aggregation, then subsequent settlement and calculations off the back of that. The fourth one there is DSR CMUs. Again, we've had to exclude those from the reporting. And again, that's in line with previous mock stress event approaches, just to get the calculations to run. And also that's the same for the interconnector volumes. Again, obviously not having those volumes in, and what I talked about at the top, is going to have an implication to the overall share, but in terms of each individual capacity provider's data and how they've submitted the data and how would they perform during a stress event, and the insight that we're wanting to provide to you guys around how is your individual data submission looking. I don't think the knock-on is of relevance really. I know it would be in the case of a full-on stress event, but what we're wanting to get out from this is more the insight and the education piece that are you all set up as you should be, and you're all ready to go if we were to ever have one. Okay, so the stress event reporting outcome, we sent a series of emails. We sent one out as a warm-up to let you guys know that it was coming, and then we sent the first tranche of emails out on the 14th of June, and this this set was all around capacity providers. They didn't have any exceptions with their data, but they could either be over or underperforming. So all data submissions were good for this. It was just whether they were over or underperforming as a result of the calculation against the obligation that they are signed up for. So they were sort of the ones where the data was healthy. And then on the 21st of June, we sent out a second set of emails where we had some kind of exception with the data that had meant that we were unable to accurately do the stress event calculation and produce that output, that E, that's crucial for comparing against your obligation and to see whether you've over or under delivered. So that's the sort of numbers that we're experiencing, and hopefully as we go forward and this reporting becomes more mature and we're sending it out over the coming delivery year, obviously those numbers, we should use that as a barometer and see how it moves over a period of time, which does bring me on to the frequency of this reporting. So the plan is for us to provide this reporting twice during the delivery year. So the first email would be sent sometime in the October, and this would be sort of at the start of the peak periods, just to as a reminder to ensure that capacity providers have got their data set up and everything is in place. And then we envisage sending another set of reporting out at the end of January, just as a reminder to again keep the focus on data quality and making sure that everything is set up and working for the health of the scheme. We have had a few discussions internally regarding the frequency of this reporting. We did take it to CMAG, the Capacity Market Advisory Group, to get their take on when would be the best frequency of producing this, and they advised us that twice during that peak period would be sort of the optimum frequency for this reporting, and the theory behind that was to keep the focus without getting it lost in people's inboxes, because I know we're all really busy, and operational issues do crop up. So we just wanted to keep the focus around this, and providing it twice during the peak periods seemed to be the best frequency for this. I would like to add that once on receipt of this, because we have to store the database that we've run the query, new reporting functionality against for a period of 2 weeks. So if you do have any queries regarding your output when you receive the email, if you could get those across to the EMRS service desk in a timely manner, we will get those turned around for you as soon as possible. But bearing in mind that we are going to keep this data set specific to the reporting that we send out for a 2-week period before it gets sort of erased and we moved onto the next reporting. So any queries that you do have regarding your calculation output, what it is you're seeing, any of your data blockers, please send them across in a timely manner, and we'll get those turned around for you, and we can provide that extra insight and analysis, so you can so everything is in place for your CMUs. Okay, so that's a background on how the stress event reporting is going to work. I'm going to now hand over to Danielle, who's going to go through some of the questions that we received prior to this session regarding the reporting that we've sent out over the last few weeks.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I think to begin with, we're just going to take a quick pause because we did have a question that we would really appreciate your feedback on. So the question we had was, do you think the mock stress event reporting is useful for capacity providers going forward? We've asked this as a poll on Slido, so we would appreciate it if you could go onto Slido and update your responses there. Whilst we're waiting for those responses to come through, we did have a couple of questions come through on the Slido. The first one is that they had an exception file interface issue listed for one of their CMUs, and is that the same as data transfer issue? So I do believe that they are the same issue. We can also go and double check that, and any questions that we ask in today's session, just to reiterate, we are going to be producing an updated FAQ document, which we will then re-upload onto our website. So yes, I do believe that those two were the same issue. Another one was, can you explain further the exception of DSR in the November stress event check? So for this one, in the process that we're kind of running at the moment, it's our first initial stab at this. So we kind of wanted to focus more on the data quality side of it. And we kind of took the steer of kind of replicating what we used for the previous mock stress event in 2018. So that's kind of why we decided to exclude the DSRs and interconnector CMUs, as well as the other exception reasons, which are also listed on our website. We basically just wanted to kind of keep it in line with what we had done previously. Sorry, Ben, do you want to?
I just wanted to, reiterate what Danielle was saying. We'd had a lot of questions prior to this on some webinars and some feedback regarding, when is there going to be something around mock stress events and how people's position are. So we wanted to get something out that was timely and that people could use, and obviously there's a few things that to get that functionality to work we've had to exclude, and specifically that is that DSR and interconnector pot. We will be going back and looking at that at some point, but what we're wanting to do is primarily look at this sort of data focus around how would people be performing if we were to have a system stress event at that time. Granted, we still need to know how they would perform, but just to get the calculations to run at this point in time, we've mirrored what was done for the 2018 mock stress event.
Thank We also did get another question from someone who didn't receive their emails on the 14th or 21st of June. If this is you, please can you email in and we can send out your output separately. I know there are a couple of issues which we did receive. So yeah, if you could email us your email address and we can send those out. Okay. Shall we now go on to the questions which were asked? So we basically put together a list of the more general high-level questions which we received through our service desk. But what I will say is if you do have any specific questions relating to your output, we would encourage you to contact our service desk, and then we'd be more than happy to set up a Teams call with you and go through your output individually. We thought this would be better use of everyone's time just because everyone's output is going to differ and there is going to be slight variables on each output. So we thought today it'd be best to go through the more general high-level questions that we received. So the first question we received was why are CMUs on the exception report if only one component in a multi-component CMU was missing data, and would this be the case in an actual stress event? So the calculation itself won't actually run if we don't if there is missing data. This is why we've highlighted it on this report, because it is very important that we receive that. For this process, in order to get the calculation to run, we ended up having to default data, but obviously the more data we receive, the more accurate our calculations and the output will be. So yeah, it is important that we do receive the data. Next question. So next question, why were all DSR CMUs on the exception report, regardless of metering data being missing? So like we've said earlier, so both DSRs and interconnector CMUs were excluded from this output. And this is basically just in keeping with the previous 2018 mock stress event. The next question we received was, despite being the primary party authority, I didn't receive a copy. So this output was just sent to the trading, finance and operational authorities. We did this because we felt that those roles were closer to the work that's been going on at the moment. And essentially, we didn't want to alert other people to this because this is purely just for informational purposes. There isn't anything that needs to be done off the back of this. This is just to let everyone know if there was a stress event, this is how potentially you would perform, and this is the data that we're potentially missing from you. Next question. So I have a component with a negative meter share and no data being received. Will the calculation still run? So this, again, similar to the first question. If we don't receive the data, then the stress event calculation will not run. But for this, the process of this reporting exercise, we did end up defaulting some of that data to enable the calculation to run. Question. So the next question was, how will you decide which settlement date and settlement period to use for future delivery years? So we are looking to use the first working Tuesday of the month, and the stress event reporting would then be run when SF data was available, and this is usually about 3 weeks after the settlement date. We've done this because it fits in with operational processes that are already happening. But again, we would welcome feedback on like frequency and if this is useful for you in the future. The next question we received was, is there potential to include concurrent settlement periods in future reporting? So for this, as I said again, because this was our first go at this process, we kind of just wanted to use the one and kind of see where we go from there. But in the future, if there is the appetite to include potential more than one settlement periods, then definitely that's something that we can look into doing. Next question. Oh, thank you. We've just had some feedback on it'd be useful to send a list. Yes, so we've just had a question come in saying it would be useful to send a list snapshot from guidance about what the headers mean in the output files along with the data files. So we do have at the end of this presentation in an appendix, we've got all listed out what the data items are, what they mean, and also which calculations that they're using as well. So hopefully that's useful to you. And again, we also have G18 and WP48, which will also explain what's in those files as well. Question 7, will there be the opportunity in the future to also test the volume reallocation process? So obviously this process we have solely focused on the actual quality of the data, and also hoping that this will also help capacity provider understanding of the stress event outcome. We kind of went down this route as it's for industry it's not as like intensive, whereas we can just send out the data for you and then you can come to us with any questions on that. But again, if in the future people would like to go down the volume reallocation process, then we would definitely look into potentially doing that as well. Question 8. Is there a possibility to move the stress event system reporting to EMRS in the future? So again, with this, if we do receive positive feedback from the reporting that we've got at the moment, and this is something that capacity providers would find useful, then please send in your feedback and let us know. And this is again something that we can look into doing if we were to do this again in the future. So I think that's all the general questions we had. We also had a question for, has the webinar today increased your understanding of the mock stress event reporting? So again, we would appreciate your feedback on the Slido if you could let us know. And then also if there's any other questions that anyone has that which they would like us to go through today, or alternatively, if you do have specific questions on your output, please email our help desk call and we will be able to set up a Teams call with you and we can go through your output individually. I'll just give everyone a couple of minutes on that. Also worth saying for further information, we do have the mock system stress event reporting page on our website. So this page is solely focused on the reporting that we've gone through today. And we've also got a link in there to an FAQ document, which we will also be updating after this workshop. But yeah, if you want anything reporting specific, then please look on our webpage. We've also got guidance document 18, and this guidance document basically has a breakdown of all of the calculations, so like penalty calculations and ALFCO calculations, and kind of gives you like a high level overview of how to work out your ALFCO and how to work out your output as well. So please take a look at that. And then we've also got working practice 48, which is purely on volume reallocation, but in there also has the headers which we use for the output. So if you would like a breakdown of what all the headers mean, they could be found in working practice 48.
See, we've had one question come through on the Slido. I understand the CM cap has been at £75 for a number of years. Is it likely that this will be reviewed in line with inflation? To be transparent and honest, I'm not sure. So I will have that listed on the FAQs doc, and I'll take that action away to speak to our policy people to understand what discussions, if any, have been had in industry forums or between the various different parties on that cap and how that fits with you know, sort of the inflationary pressures that we're all experiencing at the moment. So I'll take that away and add it to the FAQ so you can get an answer from that as well. I just taking from the previous Slido question regarding the use of this data and how what the headings mean and how you can use it to aid your validation as to how you will be performing. I don't know, Hannah, if you can go on to the next couple of slides regarding the appendix. As Danielle mentioned, we've got all the data items there as to what they mean and what calculations they are used in. So you've got all the ones that make up the information that we send out, and then also we've got, if you keep going, this is taken directly from the rules, so it neatly breaks down as to how the E, which is the thing, the key output as to how you've performed against your obligation is calculated. Now, I don't know, it wouldn't be too hard for ourselves just to put perhaps a how-to cheat sheet in the actual reporting itself that just states, if you want to use this for validation, it's column X times Y minus, just to aid people's understanding and make it a bit more straightforward that once on receipt of this, this is this column that I should be looking at. So that's very, very welcome feedback, and it's something that we can do quite easily just to give that extra help, that extra bit of insight as to which columns it is that you should be looking at and how that equates to this all important E and how that relates to the obligation that you've got during that period for when the system stress event reporting has been conducted. So that's really good feedback. So we'll take that one away and sort of further enhance the reporting. So you've got that extra bit of insight into how to use it, and also then you can quite quickly understand, are you doing well? Are you not doing so well? Have you got some kind of blocker from actually meeting your obligation if, God forbid, we did ever have a system stress event? Sorry, Hannah, messed your phone up. There's another question, apparently.
Yeah, thank you. We do have another question just regarding the volume reallocation and G18. It says there is quite a detailed account of what to do in a stress event. Will there be plans to perform a mock volume reallocation? So like I said before, this process we have focused on the data quality side of it. But if going forward you would like a mock volume reallocation process, then definitely this is something that we can take away and work with you to go through essentially.
Could I just add to that as well, Danielle?
Yeah.
Just to say, I mean, the first slide we presented, that I presented on like journey we're going on for sorting out data quality, process improvement. I'd say like this is the start of looking at mock stress events and looking at how we can better inform and improve understanding for scheme participants. And so for where there are gaps, we are looking at how to fill them, and that's something we'll be able to feedback on in due course later this summer, because it's almost like shifting across the journey. So thanks.
Yeah, totally agree, Bede. If we can sort out the data, get all that to a very, so we've got that real assurance around data provision and the pathways that when we're performing these calculations, they're as accurate as possible and everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, then it's sort of the next phase, isn't it? I think we look at that volume reallocation piece, then potentially also the penalties. So, it's a journey, isn't it?
Thank you. I think that's all the questions that we've had so far. Just to reiterate that these slides will be posted on our website, and we're also going to be updating the FAQ spreadsheet as well. Just to say again that if anyone does have any more output related questions specific to their individual outputs, then please send in your questions to our service desk and we'll set up individual calls with you to go through that. But if that's all from everyone, I think we can wrap this up. Sorry, I've just been told that there is another question.
This is good. This is good.
Oh, sorry, we do have another Slido question. Sorry. So the last question we had was, do you have any additional feedback on the mock stress event reporting or anything else capacity market related? I'll just give people a couple of minutes to update that. Okay, I understand that a few people are still typing their responses, so I'll give you a few more minutes. Okay, I think that should be all right. So we just had another one come through.
Yeah, no, thanks for all the interaction. This is fantastic. So we've got a live demo working example of the process would be very useful. That's what I'd sort of envisage for adding to enhancing the reporting going forward. So we would take, you would have your output, you would have your various different tabs, and then you would also have, if, you know, obviously anonymized CP, mocked up, this is how you use this reporting. Sorry, Hannah, I've just messed your phone up again. But this is how you would use this reporting to work out how you individually are getting on. So I'll that's what we'll look to add. I've got that as an action to take away. There's also one regarding a beginner's guide to the CM. You would like a sort of interactive guide to how the CM scheme works and all its sort of bells and whistles, and that's something we can look to facilitate and do. I know we've done various different types of session like that over the past, so yeah, that's something that we can do for you and love to do. How else? We've got one regarding the inclusion of more of the exceptions. I would highly recommend the challenge. Half of our portfolio are DSR and growing. So yeah, no, that's something we'll take away. The DSR has proven to be a bit of an issue when we're coming to run these calculations, just due to its very nature, that you know, it is in reaction to something. So it's something we're looking to do. It's on the sort of development pipeline. It's just how we facilitate that. So no, it's a welcome challenge. And then somebody else is saying this is useful and should continue, and would welcome the addition of the volume reallocation piece. So yeah, there's some great points there, and we'll look to answer those and enhance this as we go forward. Yeah, just reiterating what Danielle has said. Really, it's all around. We wanted to do something. I know everybody's always talking about mock stress events, and we just wanted to provide you guys with something that you could see at various points during the year where you can understand, oh, this is how we would perform if we were to have a system stress event. So it's all around insight and sort of engagement to make sure that we're all sort of working together for the health of the scheme. Yeah, I've got nothing further to add. I'd just like to thank you all for attending. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.